Hello, welcome back to City Planner Plays, where we are building the city of Van Buren in Clearwater County. And today we are going to focus on building an absolutely wonderful hillside university inspired by Pepperdine in Malibu, California. But before we get to that, I want to get into a few things that I've done since the last episode. So first of all, we are taking a look at the end of this road here, looking at the Capitol, and what I've decided to do based on your feedback is add bollards here, because with the way that this path looks, it looks like you could just drive right out into Lake Superior. That is not what we are trying to do. So we've added this here, and now cars would be stopped by the bollards before they could leave from the quay wall, which is great. And you'll also notice that there are folks using this path in a number of interesting ways. What I've done is I've added extra paths through here and connected these, so more of this area is being utilized. In fact, people are cutting across it, which is interesting and nice. And I'm really enjoying all the activity that we're seeing on our quay wall, and this is exactly why it's there. Now, it's unfortunate that some of these buildings aren't very attractive, but they'll get better over time. The other thing that we've done is we have gone ahead and named this park. So huge shout out to some bloke 8895 who said that this would be a great idea to name this park Foghorn Bluff, and there should be a small walking tour to this lighthouse. Eventually we'll get there, not today, but I did want to name the park before I forgot. And then finally, we had a stream last week, and in that stream we put together the town of Bradford. It's a small community, has a bowling alley, a gay bar, a subway, a little auto repair business, a diner, a theater, a church, and that is about it. I guess there's also a motel and a grocery store as well, and a post office. So really small rural community as we start to fill out some of the land in between Ashland and over here in Belmont and Shorewood. So a lot of work to do. Still pretty awkward looking. I didn't build nearly as many of these as I had hoped to. In fact, I built basically none, but you know, we'll get there eventually. At least we have another town here, bring some life into the community, which is a good thing. All right, so today we are going to take a look at this area and begin building a wonderful university. But before we do that, I thought it might be nice to look at Pepperdine and get some inspiration from there. So let's hop over and take a look. After a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, I've teamed up with Apex Gaming PCs to design my own custom computer perfect for playing games like City Skylines and Timberborn. Check them out by looking at the link in the video description. So first of all, I thought it might be helpful to take a look at the terrain of the Pepperdine campus. And the reason why I think it's so illustrative and helpful is because of how terraced it is. So what they've done here is they've actually sloped up and built flat pads for all the buildings on the campus. And you can see that they're working their way up from coast level to these homes over here, to some of the academic buildings, some of the dorms, and then up to the graduate school. Pepperdine has put together what I think is really a masterclass in designing maps to showcase a specific building site. So this is absolutely amazing. So you go through here, and it seems like it's almost inspired by some of my thumbnails, which is kind of funny. There's outlines of the specific building areas that light up in a color, and then you can click and learn more about the building. So it's very cool. I love it. And what this is really helpful is you can see what is happening on the campus. So down here, there's a little stormwater retention basin. There's a green space, a park, some tennis courts. Most of the, looks like study area and administration buildings are down here. There's a little town square, some parking, more tennis courts, a field house, and a lot of the athletic buildings are on this side. Over here, you have some faculty housing. And then we have some of the specialized school, like the School of Law, and a number of dorms, frat houses, and residential buildings right here for the undergrad students. Then you go further up the campus, and they have a number of the graduate study, professional colleges, and some of the residences for both faculty and staff and grad students, and a parking ramp up here. Space is at a premium, so building a garage like this makes a ton of sense. The other thing that you'll notice is that there is water storage up at the top. Makes a ton of sense because you'd have the most pressure up here when you're getting it down to all these other buildings on the campus. So we're going to take a lot of inspiration from here. I think that they've overbuilt the roads. My guess is they're planning for their classes all getting out at the same time, and there being a crush of students coming here and a lot of commuters. And that's something that, it's California. I went to college in California for a little while. I know a lot of students drive to school there. I did. It was kind of what people did, especially when you live off campus, which was a better option for me at the time. And I'm guessing that's the same case here. That said, tons and tons of university housing, and we are going to be inspired by that as well. All right, so let's get started right away. I think that we want to have this layout in a very similar fashion. I want to have a lot of the academic buildings here, right at the base. And what I want to do is make sure that we are thinking about our views. So that is our views here of the courthouse and our views there of the state capitol. And we want to preserve those for some of the buildings that will have the most foot traffic. So that's what we're going to think about right off the bat. So I'm going to start out. We'll just get a nice 2U road, and I want to turn on my terrain views so we can figure out exactly the best routing for this. So what you can see is that everything is sloping down from this point downhill. So what we're going to do is, this is a fairly gentle place to get up. Let's go ahead and create a slope, and we'll create a bit of a horseshoe here. Okay, so what I've done is I've sloped this down. And what we're going to do is just follow our terrain right down there in both of these instances with this road. And then we have our flat building pad right here. We'll place that as well. And now I want to make sure I have all of my snap twos on, because we're going to link all these roads up. Okay, and it is not the straightest road in the world, and that makes sense because we are respecting our topography and taking that into consideration. But what you can see from this road is you have views, at least from right here, of both the courthouse and the city hall. So this is going to be our focal point, and we will branch some of the roads off from here. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and level this a bit. This will be where our admin building is. Now, I think I created a neighborhood here instead of a university district, so I'm going to get that fixed right now. And one thing that we're going to need is a name for this university. I know I've mentioned that before. This is the time to name it. So please drop in the comments your favorite name for the university, and we will get it incorporated. And right now it will be campus area. So one thing I want you to keep an eye on as we're building this is we have office zoned all the way throughout here, and we have no demand for office right now. And that might be a mod conflict. And if we don't start seeing this come in, I'm going to go out of the build and load back in, and I have an idea for a way to fix it. But I'm hoping that it's not a problem and it'll just naturally start to occur. So we have our 3 different campus types, and I mentioned that I really want to have the School of Engineering, and that is part of the trade school campus. So we are going to build that right now, and I'll place that building right here. And then let's pretend that we are inside of this building. You can see both of the buildings that I wanted to see. So that is perfect. So we are going to be giving that lots of consideration as we go through this entire build. What can you see, and how do things connect? So there we go. These have self-leveling paths, so that's one of those interesting things where if we don't get this perfectly right, we're going to need to move the building, and that should fix it. No, it's still there. That's okay. That's a little imperfection that we can live with, and I'm very happy with it. Right away, I'm going to bring up some water pipes and even fix these ones that got a little bit off kilter. And we'll also need power. I'm hoping at some point I can jump this, but for the time being, I won't be jumping it. I will be building power lines. So I'll just steal this suburban line right here, and we'll run that right up the side. I'm going to need to use anarchy for this, but that's okay. And there we go. We have power, and now our university, which is the Holly Career Institute. That is not what we're going to call it. We can see that it is an unrecognized university with no students. Perfect. So let's get building some of our core buildings. So we're going to need a dormitory, a study hall, groundskeeping, and a book club. We can get all those added right away. We also have the police academy, which apparently unlocks right away. So that is wonderful. So let's go ahead. We'll look at our terrain and start running a road up the hill. And what I think we're going to do is add another terrace level up here, just behind this building. We're also going to flatten it out right here so that we can use this. Otherwise, this area is completely unusable. Okay, so I had to move this building over a little bit, and I want to make sure that we're still meeting our goals. You can kind of see there. Yeah, we're good still. The main reason is I need to run a road up the side of here if I'm going to be able to make it up. And that is going to be a bit of a struggle if I don't think about that right off the bat. And then I terraced this incorrectly. I decided to send it down the edge, but that's not going to make the most sense for us. So I'm going to change this up a bit. What we'll do is we'll select that height here and then come up. There we go. That's a bit better. Now I'm disappointed. It's been just dropping this down into the ground. That is not what I wanted to do. I'll need to take a look at that. But what we're going to do is come through, select those nodes, and align them to the terrain height. And that'll bring that back, which is a much better look in my opinion. In fact, I should have just done that with the entire road. So bringing that back to terrain height. And now we're at least respecting that terrain. If we want to slope this, we'll use the slope terrain tool. We won't try to just bury it with a road anarchy. And that's in the fine road tools. That's not what we want to do. Okay, so I mentioned we're going to have a lot of our administration buildings over here. So I don't want the dorms, but we could certainly have a study hall down here and groundskeeping and even our book club. So I'm going to start out with the groundskeeping, which might seem like a strange place to start. We're just going to tuck that away back here. Doesn't need to be prominent. And then for our study hall, we're going to place that over here after we build a path over to it. And eventually we can build a really nice park to this area. So I'm going to turn on just our grid. I'm not getting the lines. It's not lining up the way I would hope. So I'm going to start out here, make my own magic. And then because I absolutely despise the joints that are in here, I'm going to pop into our unified UI and use this arrange at node and try to get a nice curve through here. I don't know if this is going to work, but we'll give it a shot. Yeah, I like that. A little better. Maybe that defeats the whole purpose of what I just did, but you know, we'll live with it. No, we won't. I can't do it. Okay, so I just decided to redraw this manually and use the curved road tool to make this connection, and that did a wonderful job. So now we can go ahead and build our study hall, and this will be another prominent location, and all of these students that are here will be able to take a look. Now, I am going to make sure I don't have anarchy on because I do not want to inadvertently create a situation where I got trees popping through and craziness. So let's go ahead and bring this right back. We'll again look at our terrains. And I want to wrap this all the way around the building. There we go. And we're going to want to get rid of some trees here. We'll focus on those in the future. We're also going to change the terrain here a bit. And I just think that this isn't a great, if we take a look, it's kind of bumping up. I don't love that. So let's go ahead and smooth that out some. I'm not going to do that in most places, but right here I'm going to, mainly for the sake of the views. And in fact, let's increase our brush size significantly and turn our strength down and just create a nice grand slope up to this hill. Maybe this will be a place like at the college I went to. In the winters, we would take our cafeteria trays and we would take them to a hill and slide down the hill. That was a rite of passage. If you were going to eat at the residence hall, at the cafeteria, you had to take your tray at least once and go sledding with it. So it's a lot of fun. This is a very good place for the book club as well. We are going to want to take a look at our heights. There's a little bit of bumping here, and we're just going to flatten that right out. So as much terrain modification as possible in this one. We're going to do it all. Okay, and that view stinks. But I guess that's what the kids get. They don't get the great views that you get when you're in some of the other buildings. I wanted to pull this over a bit, but you start to see that we're having some issues with the location of this highway here. So that's clearly a concern. In fact, that might lead me to relocate this. And truthfully, no, we're going to leave it there. I want to reserve this for a plaza of some sort or for another university campus building. And then the next thing that we're going to do is start to think about our dormitories. So let's take a look at our Career Institute. What we have right now is 102 students and a very low campus attractiveness, no academic works. Let's start dumping money in the university to make sure that we get our works. And I'm going to speed this up as well. We are going to now build our first dorms. And what I want to do is build that somewhere near here so you'd be able to walk down on a hill. And we're going to flatten that out. Now, I've looked at the terrain difference here. And what we're looking from bottom to top is about 50 meters or 165-ish feet of elevation change. And if we go all the way up to the top, add another 20 meters or 65 feet to that. So there's a lot of elevation change here. And it's going to be really important that we have multiple ways to get there, not just in a vehicle. So we will send this back and respect our topography. We're going to wrap it right around. Even though we've created this topography, we're still going to respect it. So this is very, very nice. We're going to also create a path connection here. So let's use our slope terrain tool. We're going to take our brush strength down to 15. And what I want to do is make a nice clean connection from here up to this road. So we're going to start here and kind of zigzag up a bit. Okay, and I extended that beyond where it needed to go because I'm going to add a node through here and then just delete the segment that I no longer need. So we'll add that there, and we can delete this, and now we have a nice connection. And this is very steep. You can see that we get a whole bunch of elevation change in the beginning. I'm just going to drop this down a little bit to smooth out those contours. What I'm basically trying to do is make sure that all of these contours are sufficiently spread so that the rise is gentle. So that's much more reasonable. This would absolutely need to be ADA compliant, so Americans with Disabilities Act compliant, and this would be a way to get there. So that's a pretty good connection in my opinion. So now let's start laying out some of our dorms, and I think that we're just going to scatter them back here. So we could focus them all on the road. And this is going to be a little bit of a money hack, which I don't love, but I do want to clone this building because it's going to make it easier for us to place our next one. And what we're going to do is we'll place one of these right up against here. And the same thing here. There's no reason that we can't get creative with these buildings. And now if we see it looks like a larger dorm building, I don't like the way this one looks. We're going to move that one around a bit. Okay, so the biggest problem with getting creative with these buildings are some of the trees that you have in here. So we're going to use Bob and just remove some of these trees. They're not going to be helpful for us. I think that covers most of the strange overlapping. And now we need to figure out a way to get paths to these buildings. We'll keep this as an open plaza here. Actually, this is a really good spot for parking. We have parking on the buildings. We should get rid of those. Those look pretty terrible. I don't love them. So we'll just look for our parking spaces and take the probability of those spaces down to nothing. And now we absolutely need to make sure that we're getting parking back here. So I'm just going to steal this parking lot, and whoa, we are going to need a parking garage over here very, very soon. That looks pretty bad. We could go with a drive like this, but there's just a lot of details and decorations on there that I don't love. So let's go ahead. We'll use this pavement road. And I'm hoping I can clean up aspects of it down the line. In particular, I just don't love the way that looks at the end. And there's simply not going to be a lot that I can do about that. So I think we're just going to use one of these roads that we already have here. There we go. So that's a little bit better. And what we'll do is I'm just going to clone. Actually, yeah, we're going to clone this rather than try to place it. The main reason is I have so much more control then over the way that this is being placed. So there we go. That's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Now this area is a little bit awkward and I regret placing this here. We are going to use a bit of a mulligan and move this just a little bit. The height of realism, scooting a building that irritates you. That's exactly what we're going to do. And then I want to try to clean up this terrace if I can. I can a little bit. It's not really going to be perfect. Now, this building still is not connected. We're going to need to rectify that. Now, I am wondering if my anarchy madness has created this problem or if it's our water availability. That's what it is. You can see that our consumption is just above our availability. and that is a problem. So what we are going to do here, I'd love to have another water tower. I'm going to temporarily do something I don't love to do. We're going to come in here, look at our budget, and just increase it. Now, eventually we're going to build a water tower. We're just not in the right place to do so yet. So we are going to utilize our existing infrastructure in a way that is a little taxing on the system, to say the least. We'll build a connection to this building here that will solve our problems. And in fact, for this particular connection, rather than using the university paths, let's just use this concrete path because it just looks really nice, blends well. So now we have the opportunity to create a special place right here, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So I want to bring in a couple of signature trees. And I was thinking of a tree here, but in fact, what we're going to do is open this up so that we're framing that view of those buildings. And we'll add a fence here. Now, the pavement here is connecting, which I don't love, but I think we can make the most of it. What we'll do is add a connection through here, a pedestrian connection. And at least then it'll make some sense. And ultimately, the best solution is probably just to get rid of one of these parking lots, and then we are completely fine. And I think we're going to leave most of this open. I will line this with flowers to try to make this view a little more palatable. We'll just relocate this tree. Just scoot it over a little bit. There we go. So I think that's a better solution for this area. We've certainly got more work to do, but it's not meant to be a very high utilization space. Okay, so what I'm going to add over here is a park people generator. And what this is basically going to do is provide some interest. Some folks will just kind of hang out here. So we have different size. We have 3x3 and 1x1. And I add that and people will just hang out here. And apparently, I'm curious, what does this building look like? I've already got 4 people who moved in. Apparently it's a nice place to live. So what I think we're going to do is just let this crank for a minute, and then we will come back and continue building our campus. Hey, and we've done it. The academic year is complete. We have 2 academic works. Over 1,000 students, and our campus attractiveness is enough to allow us to level up to the next level. So I'm very excited about that. One of the things that I had to do to get here was to actually have this visiting scholars policy. I just wanted to improve our chances at getting one of these academic works. Right now, we have an 80% chance of this right now. So I want to take a look. We're going to need 2 more works. So we will come through here, and we'll go after IT and engineering, and we will study this. So we got 3D printed buildings before and off fence. It's a backyard fence made out of toothpicks. I love it. I love it. Great. So what this has done for us is unlocked a number of new buildings. We now have the trade school outdoor study, the trade school gymnasium, the cafeteria, and a fountain. So I think that is great. That is exactly why we wanted to hold off on filling this area in too much here, because we can use some of these assets to really bring the area to life. And then we'll bring our fountain right up here. So technically, maybe this should be focused here so that the focal point is that building. It's hard to say. It's kind of weird. So what I think we'll do is we'll add this here and then send another path straight through here with our angle and our anarchy on, because we can always relocate things. Very good. And now we don't really have anything else that we could fill this area in with. We have this study hall. We could certainly add another one of these if we wanted to get hokey. That's not great. We'll just save this space. And that's when you're building these campuses, you really have to do that. You have to be patient and save the space. All right, so now I want to have a study area. And interestingly, we have our train right here too. We're going to want to have a pedestrian path down here to make the trip a little bit shorter for some of these students. So we're going to focus on both of those things right now. So let's go ahead and terrace a bit more again. And now I just want to check the size of my asset, because I know that this one is really large, but I think I'm going even further, which isn't part of the game plan. There we go. And you can see that I've gone a bit extreme. So we've got 4 dorms. I don't really think we need more dorms. We don't need another study hall, but we do need a cafeteria. So this actually is a building that would focus, or that we should place right over here. Again, I like the idea of that focusing that in this area. Okay, so now the students have a bit of a hike to get down here. It's not ideal, but I do think it would be fine. And this almost changes the focal point, again, of this building, of this particular park. I think as long as we scoot the cafeteria over, it creates a bit of synergy between these buildings. There's not really a lot to look at right here anyway, and now you'd be able to take a bite to eat and look at all the dead bodies piling up around the city. That is not good. I don't know what's going on with me and death care recently, but it's bad. Okay, so now let's get back to our campus, and we have a gymnasium, and I think that now we have an opportunity to create a whole bunch of really unique athletic facilities. That's exactly what we're going to do. So I'm going to send this road back this way, and then we'll create our gymnasium over here. But I also want to have some tennis courts and things of that nature. So I'm going to bend this road. If we take a look, we're going to need to level this a bit more. We'll reach the end of the hill here, and we'll turn this to line up with our terrain. And this will also become the place where we begin our ascent up to the next level. So I'm going to level a bit more ground here. And then we'll come through here and, I don't have European buildings. So we are going to have a bunch of basketball courts for the time being. I think I want to replace these, though, with tennis courts. Let me see if I have anything. Yeah, nothing, which is really unfortunate. We will do that, though. We will definitely add in the European buildings because I think that that's kind of a big miss in this particular area. It seems like it would be a good fit. The other thing that could work really well in this area would be a community pool. Maybe we'll go that route instead. And I don't want these to just snap to the roads. We can really maximize our utilization of the space. Okay, so that's going to be a good fit here. So you'll be able to walk down here, have some excellent views of the water while you're studying. Oh, the death, all the death, all of the death. It's just it's just driving me crazy. It's in both of my builds right now. And again, I just want to fence around this parking. I'm just trying to create a sense of separation, and I think I went overboard. I can leave it here, and then maybe we'll just attach this to the end of the building. Actually, I do like this coming this way. It'll ensure that people aren't falling off the cliff, which is going to be important. We don't want people falling off the cliff. All right, so I mentioned a couple of things. First of all, we have an opportunity to make a path connection here. I don't think we're going to take that opportunity. We don't need to take every opportunity that presents itself to us, but we certainly need to provide a path to get down the hill, and I want to make this look a little bit more natural. So let's take a look at our terrain, and what we'll do is we'll make a connection from this road that'll make a shorter path for us. So I will use our slope terrain tool, take this down to approximately 15 or 16. That works too. We're just going to slope our way right up here. Okay, now this is going to be a very important path for us. I think a lot of students are going to use this. And now we should definitely look at our terrain here. You can see that there's a lot of elevation change over some of these nodes. We'll just drop some of these down, try to spread it out. And the fact that I have such a significant drop right here tells me that I was not successful at my goal of creating a long enough path to make this plausible. So we're going to need to go back to the drawing board and try it one more time. And now that already looks significantly better. We can fix this by just popping this up a little ways. And that's a ton better. There we go. Looking good. Looking good. And let's see. I wonder if we have any activity. We have a little bit. A couple pedestrians. Looking good. All right. So we are again going to let ourselves expand a bit more. So let's go ahead, and what we'll do is grab a large brush, take the strength down, right mouse click up here, and then slope up from the bottom. And that won't work at all. So, okay, and I'm much more satisfied with this. This feels a lot more natural. We are going to need some fences along these paths here, though. And I think we're going to go with something a little more gentle than we have been using. We'll just have a nature reserve fence and go along the sloped side of the path. And I just said sloped side of the path. That doesn't make any sense. The entire path is sloped. We're going to go down the steep side of the path, but truthfully, I might just bring it down all the way down for visual continuity. And I'm really not sure how I feel about this path. In fact, it's bad enough, or this fence, it's bad enough that I might seek out another fence. So in my collection, I found this black networked fence, and it looks like for the most part, I should just be able to upgrade these like it's a road. And when we take a look, this just feels much more appropriate. It's very attractive, just enough to prevent you from falling off without getting without being too much. Okay, so I was giving this some thought, and we have our parallel tool, and we should be taking advantage of it. So what we're going to do is use our networked fence and parallel it. So let's just come along here, and that is much better. We will certainly back this up just a little bit. Enter, and then we'll tab. Same distance. Perfect. Fence completely follows it. Look at how nice that looks. Much better than anything I could have done. So I am pleased with this. In fact, I'm so pleased with this. We're going to take this fence, extend it beyond this way, use some anarchy, and for the sake of visual continuity, extend it over here as well. I love it. I love it so much. All right. So we are getting some pedestrian activity here. You could theoretically walk from your dorm to the train now, which is a huge boon to the university, in my opinion. I do want to take a look. Let's look at our routes and see how this looks. Look at all of that pedestrian activity. Everyone's going to the train. Maybe they'll stop driving here. Unlikely. Unlikely. We are going to need to do something about this. This is a little extreme. And one of the nice things about having all these surface lots here is that it leaves us the opportunity to expand them later into a parking garage. I call them a ramp, but that's what we call them in Madison. We don't, obviously you're probably not going to call this a parking ramp. And this is really large. I actually kind of hate this, the way it looks. It's going to block the entire train station. Our other alternative is to take out a bunch of housing. I think I actually like that more. And I'm sure that I'm going to hear about it in the comments. I'm sorry about it. This isn't ideal. In fact, maybe we'll just, rather than blocking the train station, we'll open this area up. And this, again, may not be the height of realism. We are going to smooth out a bit of land. And this is probably okay over here, actually. We'll smooth out a bit of land and add our garage over here. We are going to, this won't be the height of realism. We're going to adjust this. This would absolutely be built flush up to the sidewalk. Okay, so I've added this ramp here. It's on the right side. Garage, not ramp. Sorry. And you can see that what it's done is it's taken a number of these cars that were on the road and relocated them to this garage. Now, as I was over here, I noticed another odd thing. And what it is we've got what appears to be orange trees in some of these homes. So some developer promised that the residents of Van Buren could plant orange trees at their house. Obviously, that's not a thing in a temperate climate. Sure enough, they're orange trees. Let's swap those out for pear trees. That's fine. You can have a pear tree. There we go. All right, and we are good to go over here. Got some pedestrian activity, and now we just need to wait for our university. Ah, there it is, our notification. And I think we'll build level 3, and then we'll save levels 4 and 5 for our next episode. But let's see what we get with this one. We didn't get to level 3. That's what we didn't get. So let's take a look and see where we failed. Campus attractiveness of all things. So this one's an easy one for us to fix. What we will do, maybe be able to just go in here. Universal education. We can't afford that. Free lunch will increase student happiness. Healthcare will increase their health. Yeah, we've got to do something else to increase the campus attractiveness, and it can't be any of those options. So let's come through here and take a look. We have our outdoor study already. We have this. We could add in a building or a dorm. Okay, so one of our oh, we got a dead body here. So what we're struggling with right now is our attractiveness. So the easiest way for me to be able to increase the attractiveness is going to be to spam another one of these trade school fountains. I just want to see, does that get us where we need to be? Yeah, that gets us there. So I will find a place for this. I don't love this. This is one of the mechanics that's, I think, a little bit challenging. To be able to spam fountains to get your attractiveness high enough, that's really the only avenue that we have right now, because I don't have a stadium in here yet. And that's going to be the primary way for us to gain a higher attractiveness level. Now I wonder, I could certainly add this down here, and that might be what I do. So that will be the way that I handle it. We'll level a little pad here, and it'll be the campus giving a little bit back to the community, even if ultimately we know that we're doing this because we want to increase our campus attractiveness. So we've got a weird dip here that I don't love, so we are going to smooth that out just a little bit. There we go. I kind of like the effect of the hillside, though, and it being kind of a cliff, so I'm going to keep massaging this until I get it to be exactly what I'm hoping for, and that's pretty close. There we go. So now that we have that, we just need to get to our next academic year, and if we get there, we should... So we'll give another one of these because we know we'll need it in the future. We have enough academic works, we have plenty of students, and we have a high enough level of campus attractiveness that we should be able to hit our next level. Okay, and it took a while, but we finally have reached level 3. Now, I think we dodged a bullet because our student population has declined, but we still reached our level 3, and that's all I care about. We've unlocked a number of new buildings, including another academic statue, the IT club, the trade school library, the School of Tourism and Travel, and the commencement office. So lots of great stuff. Let's take a look at what we need to get to our next level to make sure that we are working our way there. All right, so we need more academic works. We're going to give some money for that. And what else do we need? Our student population's low, so we're going to need to improve that as well. So the way that we're going to do that is to terrace up and add another level of student housing up here. So let's get right on that. The other thing we need to think about, and something I haven't focused on enough, is this is a big cul-de-sac. so that's a bit of a problem. So let's focus on that right off the bat. In fact, what we're going to need to do to fix that is eliminate this. And now we'll go ahead and we're going to slope. Now I hate doing this because it means that we're sending a road back here, but I think it's necessary. Okay, so I'm just going to start this road off, and then we'll send that directly up the side here and meet right in. And then I turn collision off here for a very specific reason. I don't want to ruin all of this stuff right here. I just want to move it. So I'm just going to scoot this back and ruin everything. Because apparently I've selected a node. Okay, better yet, I didn't select a node and that was the issue. So now that we've done that, we're okay. We need a crosswalk here though. So we're going to add that in. So we will add in well, that's a bend right now, and it's not very happy with me. We'll make that a crossing, and now it's okay. So now at least people could get from this parking lot and move down there if that's something they wish to do. We also have some parking here that I don't want there, so we'll come over here, look at our parking, and get rid of that. Okay, so that is a good solution. And the other thing I'm thinking is I wonder if it makes sense to pull this back. Now we can attach that sidewalk to this building. That at least provides some utility. We can also connect this up with our paths here. There we go. Okay, so now I want to look at my terrain heights and just make sure that nothing is completely egregious. It could be better. I think right here we could drop this one down just a little bit. This one we should raise up just a little bit. Yeah, that's 10% grade. That is insane. So that is 6.5. That's still pretty extreme. What that tells me is that this path is not going to work here. As much as I wanted it to, it's just not going to work. And to add a point of emphasis to that, I'm backing this off from here. And now if we wanted to make a connection back here, we could. Probably makes a ton more sense. There we go, just a little bit of decorating. Not anything all that impressive, but a little bit of something. So now that we have that, we need to continue working to progress a university, and we will build this road coming up here. Now this is no longer a cul-de-sac, so I'm a little more satisfied with where we're at. Let's go ahead and make our next terrace level. We could go all the way up here. We might just do that. So what we will do is we'll create a couple of different levels of terrain height, but the main purpose of these is going to be to get us up the cliff. Okay, and now we've done enough to get ourselves up here. So I'm going to turn off most of my snap twos and just focus on making connections that make sense. Okay, so now we've meandered our way up the hillside and we are at our top elevation, which is good because we're going to put a lot of our graduate school and professional buildings up here. So I'm going to create just a road that we can use to front and keep some of these buildings right along the best view areas in the entire campus. If we place any buildings right here, we've got to be very careful with our terrain because we've got some challenges here. That said, I think we're going to try to put a building or two right here. And what we'll do is right here, it's the road's relatively flat, and I think that we can work something in. So right here, we're going to have a few more academic buildings, so we'll come through. Instead of academic buildings, we are actually going to have a few more dorms. So let's go ahead and just send these this way. There we go. So might look a little strange, but I think it's going to look okay. And truthfully, I can't even put more than one here. Otherwise, I start going off the end. So what we're going to do here is instead of having more than one dorm, we'll just have one dorm and be a club or park of some sort. And truthfully, after thinking about it, it's probably good enough just to have one single dorm here and nothing else. I don't think we need to go too extreme with it. You can figure it's part of the same campus. You'd be able to park here and walk all the way up the hill. So it certainly wouldn't be the best place to go if you're trying to get to campus and go to class, but it'll do the trick. That said, we really don't have any academic buildings to speak of, which is kind of interesting. That's one of the fun things about this DLC. So we should probably add a few of those. So we have our library, or we have a study hall, but we don't have a library. So we're going to add in a library and commencement office over in this general area, although that again is going to be a challenge. So we're going to carve out a little space right here, terrace off again, and this seems like it would be an ideal location for a commencement office. Okay, so we have our terrain heights again, and let's just go ahead and make a quick little connection over here. And I want to get a sense of the scale of these buildings. Yeah, look at that. That is huge. So I'm going to place this building, and then I'm going to rotate it around. And the goal is going to be to provide the best view from this building. And let's even orient that towards the Capitol. Yeah, I like that a lot. And then without all of these guidelines, we just simply run this over. And then I'm going to have angle on, so I can make really nice connections without worrying too much about having some of those weird broken areas. And then road guide, use the curved road tool for our last connection. Beautiful, just beautiful. And then just for ease of getting around here, what I'm going to do is also provide a secondary connection over here. The other benefit of this connection is that if there were an emergency event, you wouldn't have only one exit. That's not just a concern when you're talking about roads, it's also a concern when you're talking about pedestrian access. Now this is fairly steep, so that would be a bit of a concern here, but I think we can live with a bit of imperfection as far as this goes. And I can stretch that by pulling this back. Now that's going to basically be all that she wrote for this area. I really wanted to do a little bit more, but I don't think it's going to be possible. So I am going to just spread this out down here a bit. And it's funny, I see some of these, the remnants of our old train station coming back to rear its ugly head. There we go. There's a bit of a hill texture there. We might as well accentuate it a bit. There we go. Yeah, I like that. That feels good. All right, so now that we have this, and when you're in here, just look. Let's come through here. Now, granted, the speaker gets the best view, but is that surprising? This is where all of the admin would be looking, out there at the Capitol as the valedictorian is speaking. I love it. All right, so we need a library here as well. Our student population. Now, this might be driven a little bit more at this point by our education pipeline. And we take a look here, we still have about 5,000 folks that are eligible. That'll improve with time. I'm not overly concerned about being able to reach our student goal. We'll get there eventually. Our campus attractiveness is probably the bigger concern. And I'm going to place all of our core academic buildings, and we'll just think about how these line up a little bit. So this is the library, and if we take a look at our terrain, that's not perfect. I think I'm going to place this police academy. Actually, no, we're going to place our School of Tourism right here. That seems like it would make a ton of sense, giving them a great view, inspiring as you're studying to become a hotel manager. Unfortunately, it's just with our current roadway network not going to work, but this building will fit very okay. So we're going to go with it, and we can make that work. Now you see this road here, and this is going to need to work its way up here at some point. So we're going to want to think about that a little bit. And I think that that's going to start right now. And we'll adjust our terrain heights and focus on this road coming straight down here, and then it'll slope up and around. So I don't want to do that. I'm noticing that we're going up a bit with this road. That was not my intention, so we'll take this back down. And then we will use our slope terrain tool, start up here, come down here, and pull this right back around. Now I am curious, if I just go ahead and I have my road guidelines on, let's just see. Let's just say I make a super ugly connection. Can I fix this using our new tools? It almost feels like cheating, truthfully. But it was really fun to do. And I look at that as a pretty significant win. Now, this road got a little bit too close to this building, so we're going to need to fix that. That would not fly. That's pretty good. That's pretty good right there. I think that we're going to pull this over just a bit, and that's pretty good. So let's go ahead and we're going to smooth this terrain out a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit. And then we'll flatten this out here. Now we're going to need some sort of fence in the back there. That's unsafe as it sits, but that's a worry for another day. I think what we're going to worry about now is just getting our campus in order. And I'll even leave some of the stuff right here that we're dealing with. What I'm not going to leave is we've got some terrain height concerns. I think that we need to slope this a bit. Yeah, we got 14% around there. There is a big help. And now we can come back through and look at our terrain heights and see that we've got some pretty wild things going on here. And I might have just been better served by going the route that I was going to go, which is really being careful with my terrain heights pre-grading. I think that I've made this job harder for myself. So that might just be something to keep in mind for the future. I think that as much fun as it is using the network multi-tool, it does have its limitations. Now I noticed that we had a lot of flat nodes in here. Two ways to fix that. I could either just, make this, I guess, bend is all I can do. I thought I could make this a middle. I cannot. And if that's the case, all I can do is make sure that they're set to slope. And then you get a much nicer connection. There's kind of a strange bend through here, though, that I don't love. But I might just let perfect, I might just let good enough be good enough and not let perfect be the enemy of good, because it is pretty good. And per the usual, we will level some of this out so that we gain some more space to build. And what we're going to move over there is our library. So I'm situating this, and then I'm going to build a road next to it. Then I'm going to reorient this towards the road. And yeah, I'll keep it the orientation towards this road right here. I was thinking that I could potentially add some parking next to this. I'm not going to worry too much about this right now. We'll have a larger lot up here rather than individual parking for each of these buildings. And then finally, we have our School of Tourism. And I still want to preserve some sort of view for this. And I think that that's a pretty darn good view to preserve. So let's move this over here. Raise the height up because we've been playing a bit. And I'm going to back that out. So there is no terrain up here to respect, really. We just want to keep this at approximately the same roadway height. And I don't think we're going to end here. So we'll make our connection a nice connection right here. And eventually this will end somewhere else. Now, there's this corner in this building, and I think that we could really take advantage of that and make it seem like this corner is lining up with this road here. Okay, I really like that idea right here. So basically what I'm doing is trying to make it seem as though this building, the architecture mimics this road over here. And it's not perfect, but it's pretty darn close. And I really like the way it looks. So I am pleased with that. So I want to add a couple of paths through here, and then I think that we are going to need to take a brief gander at our handiwork today. And as night sets, you can see just what this has done to our city. It really adds a sense of layering, and it just feels really grand. So I love the way that this looks, particularly at night. You get all the lights, and you can see the height and the elevation change. And it's even more spectacular when you're up here. So let's say that you're in the police academy and you're looking out a window. This is the view that you have. You've got a skyline, beautiful skyline, some of the campus buildings, and you have the Capitol. You can even see Ashland in the distance. And it appears that there is a raging fire. Oh, no, it's the winter market. So yeah, not a raging fire, but there's a lot of light. So it's just, it really adds a lot to the build and to the city. And we didn't get any of our population coming back, or any of our office or industrial demand. I'm going to need to look into that. I think it might be rebalanced industries that's causing a couple of problems. I did take a moment, removed it, saved, let it run for a while, added it back in, had a bunch of issues with the Steam Workshop, and it still hasn't resolved the issue. So it'll take a little bit more work, but I'm here for it. So I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please hit the like button. If you aren't subscribed, please consider doing so. And I cannot wait to see you in the next one. Please also, if you have a name for the university, please think about giving that to me. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.